Hi, we're just going to review a couple things for this first page on the Google Slides. So the first thing I want to review is talking about terms, constants, coefficients, and then I'll even throw in variables. So this is a really basic expression here. Remember, expressions do not have equal signs. So right here we have 4x plus 7. Now we cannot solve this. We can't solve it because we don't know what x is, but we can identify the terms, constants, coefficients. So the terms here, terms are separated by addition or subtraction. So I have two terms, 4x and 7. So I'm going to write that down. My terms are 4, and sorry, let me change that one out. I'll just use black. I have 4x, and then I'll just put a comma 7. That just shows that they're two different terms. You could have a bunch of terms. You could have 10 terms. You could have 20 terms. Maybe you only have one term. But in this expression, we have two terms. Now, constants and coefficients often get mixed up. The constant is the number or the numbers that are simply numbers. They don't have any variable attached to them. So x is our variable, so we know that the 4x is not a constant. The 7 has no letter, no variable attached to it, so our constant is 7. Sometimes you'll have a constant and sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll have multiple constants. So just make sure you really understand what a constant is before you start working on these types of problems. And then our coefficient is the number that's attached to a variable. So our variable right here is x. The number attached to it is 4. Okay. If I ask what is the variable is x, right? Because a variable is a letter that represents a number. But the coefficient, the most common answer is 4x. But again, the coefficient is just simply the number that is attached to the variable, not both together. So this right here, these would be the answers for the terms, constants, coefficients, and variables. Now, when we want to evaluate x squared plus 8 when x is 5, all we do is we just plug that number in. So sometimes you'll plug multiple numbers in, but here we just have one variable, so I'm going to plug that in. So I'll have 5, and let me pull this up, squared plus 8, right? And then we just solve it. So we know from PEMDAS, our order of operations, we're going to solve exponents before we solve addition. So we're going to do exponents. Remember, it's 5 times 5, not 5 times 2. It's 5 times 5. So 5 times 5 is 25, and then we'll add 8. Our final answer would be 33. So we were able to evaluate it because it told us what x was. And then the last one is it says write 25 times n times n times n using exponents. Well, I'm going to keep my 25, and then I have n. Well, how many times am I multiplying n? I'm multiplying it 3 times. Notice that I didn't put anything between the 25 and n because when we just have a number backed up to a variable, or I guess a variable backed up to a number, that just means multiplication. So when we find out what n is, we'll plug it in. We'll do it to the third power, which is also called cubed, as you saw in your last homework, and then we'll multiply it by 25. So let's say n is 2, okay? We would plug it in, 25, and I am going to now use parentheses since this is the n's turning into a number. It would be 2 to the third. Well, 2 to the third is 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So it would be 25 times 8 because, again, exponents come before multiplication. And we know that 25 times 8 would be 200. So there's just a quick review of 3 different things we've worked on. Now you're ready for the next slide.